appreciate you checking us out on many of our CHCH media platforms. Folks, the Sportsline podcast is a space for the many extraordinary athletes, coaches, executives, and broadcasters that have made their mark in or from Southern Ontario. Today, a local lad that's gotten the job done on and off the field. From his days at Hill Park Secondary, this defensive back had the skills and the leadership abilities to reach the Canadian Football League and play for nearly a decade with the hometown Tiger Cats, Blue Bombers, and Lions. But what separates Matt Bucknor from so many is his uncanny ability to learn, educate, and practice his important beliefs off the field. I'll tell you what I love about Matt Bucknor is that he's making a mark in the many lives of others. So let's bring in Mr. Bucknor. Matt, pleasure. Thank you for joining us. It's kind of a long time coming. It's great to get you in here.
Bubba, no, I appreciate this. This is a really cool opportunity.
I'll tell you, you've done so well off the field to me, and I got to ask you just what's up right now? You're doing so much.
I'm doing a few things, yeah. I'm trying to stay busy. Right now, I'm a personal trainer, small group training. And then aside from that, I host fitness events. I put together like a hip-hop cardio class. So for me, I like to dance, and then I want to just incorporate like a fun way to just bring people together, enjoy fitness, enjoy movement. So I host these events, and aside from that, I also do some public speaking. I go to schools, go to corporations and speak. And currently, I'm also an assistant coach with the Hamilton Hurricanes.
And we had Barry Eno in just a couple of days.
Barry's awesome, yeah.
Barry, what a guy he is. You talk
awesome.
about fitness.
Oh, yeah.
What's happened to him? What a transformation.
His journey is unbelievable. I remember him and I connected. We connected last year, actually, and then he was telling me that he wanted to kind of bring me on board, but it was just the timing wasn't good for me. And but he was telling me about his fitness journey and how, you got into boxing, and he's been doing quite a bit. He's lost, I think, over 100 pounds.
Well,
yeah, and so he's kind of been almost unrecognizable to a lot of his buddies. So some of his guys that they've been friends with him for years, they're like, man, Barry's unrecognizable. But he has. I'm not surprised by it because he has such a strong work ethic, and like that work ethic he brings to coaching, and so it's been fun connecting with him for sure.
I'll tell you, when you had your days as a football player, or at least when you stopped playing, when retirement hit, did you have any idea that you would end up doing what you're doing right now?
No, because, well, yes and no. Like, I knew I was going to be involved with fitness, but I didn't know what the capacity was going to be like. I didn't think I was going to be hosting events or anything like that. Personal training was something that I did have on the radar, but it was more trying to figure out how to make that a niche, and how to brand and market and turn that into something that I could, do long term, which obviously even still, to this day, still has its struggles like with anything, right? As an entrepreneur, it can have its days, but yeah, just like really trying to figure it out. But it was, I had like other things on my radar, but like this is something that it's been like a really natural fit for me.
We'll get deeper into that, but let's go from the very beginning, and we'll go back to your high school days.
Oh, no. Okay.
Hamilton. But you know what? Just kind of take me on the journey, because I think your journey is very rare, because there's not a lot of people that go to Hill Park.
No.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And then go play football at Windsor. And this is at the time when the Windsor Lancers were not a really big recognized program, attracting players to the Canadian Football League. How did this all happen?
Yeah, so for me, I like getting into football was something that was not on my radar either. I thought I was going to the NBA. Michael Jordan was the guy that was my favorite basketball player, so I was always into basketball. And then I had some buddies that were playing football while I was in at Hill Park, and one of my really good friends, Steve Connor, who passed away a couple years ago, but he actually got me into football, and he was like, "Man, you'd be a great running back." And I'm like, I don't want to play running back. Are you crazy? And yeah, I'm like, at the time, like, I'm still a slim guy, but like back then I'm like 130 pounds in high school. And I'm looking at Steve, and he's a big dude. I'm like, I don't want to get hit by him. And he played linebacker, and then he's like, man, just come out to a practice. And then I went out to a practice. It was in the 10th grade. And I like fell in love with the game right away. Like the first time I like touched the football, I remember my head coach, or not my head coach, but the running backs coach, Anel Carbello. He told me his advice was, when in doubt, bounce it out. And so when I got the football, even if it was like a 32 lead, or I'm supposed to go 2-hole, 4-hole, I would just take it and bounce it outside because I didn't want to get hit. And so the coaches were like, man, this guy has great vision, but I'm running scared. They don't know I'm running scared. And so I loved running back, and it's like enjoyed that, just like the camaraderie of the team. And I love that team aspect. You know, I come from a big family too, so we always have like big family dinners, Christmas dinners, family gatherings, things like that. And so I just love that team environment and that aspect. And then I just started to like get a little bit better each year, and switched from running back, and then I played receiver. And then I loved the challenge of defensive back. And Deion Sanders was one of my favorite athletes ever. And so he was a dude that I like watched, and I'm like, man, I want to play the position that he's playing. And then I wore 21 when I was in high school too. So that was a little bit about that too. And then so yeah, each year I was just getting a little bit better. And then at the time, I don't know if you were familiar, but they have like they would have like bureaus, like ranking bureaus on like certain players, top players. And there was one that was called like the All Canada Gridiron or something like that. And they had me like top 10 at my position in the country. And so I'm like, I didn't realize, I'm good. I didn't realize I was that good, you know? And so it was just kind of just like, you know, getting better at my craft and like learning from, I had like a lot of mentors too that, you know, that were older, some that played in the CFL too, and just like listening to them and like following their guidance. And they really instilled a lot of confidence in me. And so that was like the biggest thing, is one, being coachable when I was in high school, and then going to university. Again, even that seemed like, you mentioned, it's like not a lot of people go from Hill Park to university and then university to pro, but it was something that I didn't think it was possible, but like the mentors instilling that confidence in me like really helped. And from high school, I ended up going to Windsor. Windsor wasn't my top choice, but when I went on my recruiting visit there, it felt like home. I can't really explain it, but it really did feel like home. Field, yeah, the field there is awesome. Yeah.
So you look over there. There's the bridge going to Detroit.
Yeah,
right?
Detroit, right? Yeah. So, so on my visit there, it was really cool. They had a really good team at the time, and like you said, Windsor wasn't a good football program. Actually, our first year we went 6-2, and then after that, we had like 2-6 seasons, 3-5, 2-6 again, and then we had like so just like up and down seasons, losing seasons.
It wasn't a MAC at the time, or a Western
or Queens.
Yeah,
like those
Queens.
are the top.
They're always winning.
Yeah, those are the top programs, and those are the programs that I love to compete against, because those were some of the better games where I got to to showcase what I could do. And then even in university, I still had a lot of guys that I followed and wanted to train just like them, like R.J. Franklin, Daryl Stevenson, who was a Het Crichton winner. Got to train with him. Glenn McKay. Like, so these are some of the guys from Windsor who they also ended up playing. They had CFL careers. So we had a good core of guys that went to the league and went and played professional football. And it was just a really cool experience, and a fun journey.
When you get to the Canadian Football League and you're playing with the hometown Tiger Cats,
okay, yeah.
And I guess you're playing, you're listed as a DB, you're also playing special teams.
Yes.
And this is the thing, because it can go either way, right? Because when you're a rookie now, you got to start all over again, right? That's the crazy thing. You're the king of the mountain. I said, well, Windsor Lancer, right?
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you come to the Canadian Football League and you're playing against grown-ass men, right?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of change was that for you? And was it everything you expected?
It was more than I expected. Actually, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. Like, you always hear, I was always training with some of those guys that were in the CFL, and that was what motivated me. But when you get to a training camp, like that first day of training camp, and you see some of these vets, I remember Jamal Johnson was a vet when I got to Hamilton, and Ray Williams and Dave Stala, and I'm trying to remember some of the other defensive players, Brian Balke. Like, there were just some like really good football players, and Jeff Tisdale was another guy that I loved his, and so got to compete with these guys, but like they were pros, like they've been in it, and you got to adjust fast. Like there's no we'll give this guy some time. It's like you better catch up or you're getting left behind. And so for me, going into training camp, actually the very first 2 days of training camp, the guys that were ahead of me on the depth chart, because I was last on the depth chart as a DB. And that was like, when I was told that I was going to be last on the depth chart, I was like, okay, maybe this is my time to kind of just like learn from behind some of these guys. And the guys go down, and I end up taking first team reps from the second or third day of training camp. And so it was like a very fast learning curve. And that's actually what got me, I believe, what kind of got me to stick around on the team, because my opportunity came and then I just ended up running with it. And I remember bumping into a few like beat reporters. I don't know if you remember Drew Edwards.
Of course I remember.
Yeah.
Drew. Scratching post guy.
Scratching post, right?
Yeah.
So I remember bumping into Drew, and I love Drew. We always had like really great chats. And he told me, he was like, "Matt, if those guys never got hurt when you were that first season, you don't play." You know, good, because you know how it goes. Like, there's so many talented players that even right now that are not getting a chance, and it's not because they're not good. It's just there's so much talent, and there's only so few spots. And so when you do get a shot, you gotta take
go through
full
it, right?
advantage.
Well,
and
they say, they call, the Ticats call it the waiting room, right?
Yeah.
On the practice roster or whatever.
Absolutely.
And that, and we say it in sports, all that next man up mentality.
That's it.
And you're right. If you don't take it, and when you're not ready at that right moment, it could spell the end in a real hurry. And especially in a sport like football, where contracts aren't guaranteed, and it's just like, boom, here today, gone tomorrow, right? It's like, whoa, I thought that guy had so much potential.
Right.
And it's like, well, he's working at Canadian Tire now, right?
Yeah.
Like anything can happen, right? It's a way it works out in the Canadian Football League.
Absolutely.
Well, your journey also takes you to win places like Winnipeg and BC, but you really seem to make a big mark in Winnipeg.
Yeah, so after my second season in Hamilton, I got traded, that was like also a bit of a shell shock, because you play on a team. And when I got to Hamilton, I'm like, I'm going to play my whole career here, and but then you realize, like, it's a business too. So, you hear about, even some of the top players, like Anthony Cavillo gets traded, and Henry Burris, like some of these like legends, Doug Flutie, like they don't play on the same team for their whole career. And that was just something that, I didn't expect, but it happened, and you just kind of run with it. And when I got to Winnipeg, I was, really fortunate to play for Mike O'Shea, who's, you've seen his resume speaks for itself. He's an outstanding coach, outstanding man, and just like got to play for him. We had a couple losing seasons while I was there, but that experience there was just incredible. And like, I know we're in Hamilton right now, but the fans in Winnipeg, like, you can't deny them. They're great. Like
Especially that new stadium.
Yeah, they have a good fan base, and yeah, of course, like playing at IG or Investors Group Field was awesome, and we had like a really good nucleus there as well. So I got to, I had built a lot of strong relationships with a lot of those players, and I still keep in touch with some of those guys still today.
I think the neat thing is that you reached a couple great cups, did you not?
I did.
I think with Hamilton, that crazy game
against Sask.
It was a trap game anyway. Going into that new stadium and all that, like that too. And then maybe arguably one of the greatest games we've seen in the last 20, 30 years. That I believe it went into overtime against the Red Blacks when the Calgary game as well too.
Yeah,
like what a wild one that was.
That was a wild game, and going into that one, we were 15-3, I believe, at 15-3 going in, and we kind of just steamrolled a lot of teams going into the season. But that's a sign or just a message where it doesn't matter what your regular season record is, it's who shows up on the big game. And yeah, that game went to OT, and you always remember the games you won, but the ones that you lose, they always like stick with you. And so some of the guys I still talk to about those games, and it's that was definitely a tough one. But like looking back now, you watch it back, you're like, wow, that was like it's an entertaining game. So the fans definitely got their money's worth.
Well, that one year you're playing for the Stampeders, the quarterback at that time was Bo Levi Mitchell. He's still playing.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Isn't that nuts?
I think that just honestly is a testament to his work ethic and his character. They're just like the type of player he is. He's been consistent in his entire career. I know like this season he's kind of been up, down, moving around and things like that.
Team.
But like exactly right. And I don't think that's you can't put that all on his shoulders. But of course, when you play quarterback, that's kind of what you sign up for too. Like when you win games, they're going to pat you on the back. But then when you lose, sometimes they're going to be pointing that finger at you, which is the unfortunate part. But he's had an outstanding career, and he's just been like a great leader wherever he's been.
You talk about leadership, and one of the things that I really appreciate about you is you've been a leader in many other aspects, that using football as a platform for other things. And I asked Chantel just to play a little tape for us here for a second.
Oh, no.
I'm Matt Bucknor of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Do you have the courage to speak out and challenge your friends on the disrespectful language they use about women? Each of us has a responsibility to end violence against women, and staying silent doesn't help anyone. Talk to your friends about sexist jokes.
You were heavily involved in every team you played for when it came to gender-based violence. Why was that important to you?
Oh man, it was initially I was like really, I would say not nervous, but I was a little apprehensive to get involved with that program, just because of the impact and just it's a sensitive topic, right? And so they were asking guys to like really step forward and kind of like you said, be a leader in this space. And so for me, it was because it's new and it's not something that I'm not comfortable talking. It's like it's one of those things where you have to be uncomfortable at times to kind of send a message and share a message. And the first time that I did it, in Winnipeg, we had there were other students and teachers that came to us and said, hey, listen, this is something that I've personally dealt with, or this is something that I know someone else that's going through, and thank you so much for that message. And there were things like, as we were going through that training, there were a lot of things that I was learning that I didn't even know about. Like, it's like, oh, you can't do that, or like, not that you can't do that, but it was more like
things you can't say.
Yeah, you can't say, or it's like there was one that they were talking about like text messaging and sharing a text message with if that's a part of gender-based violence. If you're sharing things that without people's consent and things like that. And so just learning a lot about consent and learning a lot about how the impact on more being a bystander, how much that can be an impact too, where it's like you're just watching something and by not saying anything you're just as guilty, right? And so having those uncomfortable conversations, and it's still difficult to talk about some of those things even now, right? It's a sensitive topic because it impacts so many people in so many different levels.
It's interesting because I think we're so much more aware of these things now and willing to participate and share as well to our experiences. But I think when you started that, it wasn't a time. We weren't talking about those things. No. Like, I mean, in your time there, I'm not looking at for you to rat out any. Like, attitudes in the locker room were much different than they are now. Yeah,
I think there was just more awareness, and I think as there's more awareness on certain topics and like understanding the impact on how it can, because sometimes, you have blinders on, you're kind of in your own little bubble and you're doing your own thing. And then when you see that, it's like, oh, wait, like our actions can impact more than the people in our circle. It's like, and then you talked about leadership. Sometimes as football players, sometimes you're being looked at as a leader. There's like other young athletes that are looking up to you. There's other young students that could be looking up to you. And so, I never consider myself like I'm a role model or anything like that. But sometimes like there's, if you have an opportunity to share a message, it can make an impact and it can make a difference. And so it's kind of stepping out of that comfort zone and letting other people know like, hey, listen, our words have impact, our actions can have impact. And just, just being more mindful.
Was it kind of, I don't know what the word would be. I don't know if interesting or fun or a good feeling that when you would come to schools and talk to people much younger than you that and look at you as, quote, a football player first, a football player first. Yeah. But then, and I don't know, maybe they thought you were just going to talk about football, but then you would talk about these types of topics with younger kids and they're focused upon you. It must have been really powerful for you.
It is, and before even going into that, like I had already been doing a lot of speaking and presentations and things like that at schools, but I was more on like a lighthearted level, right? So we have like a BFIT program. We're talking about like eating healthy and exercise, but then you have more of a serious, like somber presentation where there's the moments where you don't even hear a pin drop in a gymnasium of 500,000 students, and so like you really understand like what we're doing is making an impact, and you'll see it's something that I looking back, it's like we made a difference, or you're making a difference, and that's not like when I go into these things, I'm not like looking to be a hero or anything like that, but it's just like I mentioned before, it's just stepping out of a comfort zone and knowing like, listen, we have a message that we can share with with students or with teachers or with groups, and then also like creating conversations. So after those assemblies, we would have workshops, and the workshops would be even more powerful than the assemblies because some of these students are talking about some of the things that they've seen or some of the things at times like that they've experienced with whether it's family, friends, peers, and then you're just hearing about like their impact. You're like, wow, like this is something that a lot of people are dealing with.
You talk about uncomfortable situations and making an impact, and you also did very much the same after your playing days with the CFL diversity program. Why was that important to you?
Because I think representation matters, representation and it's something that, everyone talks about. You see it now, like equity or diversity, inclusion, like everyone's talking about these things and they're talking about it, but no one's really taking action with it, right? And I think being a part of that movement, I think, is important, where you're kind of getting a word out, getting your voice out, being heard, being seen, and then being put in a position where you can advance or you can accelerate your career. And it's been something, you look at certain coaches and certain staffs, it's only looking one way for quite a bit. And like now it's changed, which has been great to see. And I get it too. Also in the CFL, there's only 8-9 teams or nine head coaches, but the rest of the staff can still have representation, and I think things like that matter, and not only just in coaching staffs, but like across the board at any position or in any other occupation or any other career. I think that's important to have that diversity.
Well, and I think it's important, or at least I've noticed it with about football, because football is this magical sport. And I can't compare it to any other sport, because there's individual sports, and then there's basketball, that's maybe 13, 14, 15 guys. Right. Soccer team's kind of 20, hockey's like 20-something. Football could be as much as 65 to 8, like training camp, could be like as much as 90 guys. Yeah. All from different parts of Canada, all from different parts of the United States, black, white, Hawaiian, Asian. Now we got the global players from Australia, so cool. the Ticats punters from Australia. No sport brings together this many people, and as you well know, to be a winning team, you got to get along, not just on the field, but off the field.
No, it's true. And I always say, football is the greatest game. It's the greatest team sport that's out there. And yeah, like you hit the hammer on the nail. It's like you got so many people from different walks of life. Like I have friends, when I would go to schools and I talk to students, I'm like, I have friends that are, 5'6", and white, and I have tall, big friends that are 6'8" and from a different part of the world, right? And so, I really love that part of, like you talked about, like just the diversity, the inclusion, and you have like so many different people from so many different walks of life, so many different backgrounds, and then the locker rooms get a lot of fun because of that too, right? So you have, like, for example, you talk about the music being played in the locker room, right? Sometimes that could be a fight. It's like, well, hold on, we want to play a little bit of Drake, and like some guys want to play some, I don't know, some
Leonard Skinner.
Yeah. So they want to hear some different things, right? And so there's those fights, and that's also what makes it fun too. And so you learn about different backgrounds, you learn about different, food and music, and we have different types of conversations. Like back then, I don't think podcasts and stuff was too big, like early in my career. But if there were podcasts going on, it'd be some entertainment for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I used to be one of my go-to questions, like especially earlier in the year, talking to many of you Ticats at the time, and like, okay, who's got control of the radio and what's being played? And it could be, as you said, it could be, Metallica, it could be hip hop, it could be LL Cool J, it could be anything, like I said, some classic rock and whatever. And I remember Mike Filer at the time.
I
remember him telling me, I got control of the radio. I got control of the radio. And I always thought that was
really?
a great.
Maybe as he got to more of a vet, maybe after Marwan left, he started. Maybe that's when he got control.
I'll tell you, those are always interesting conversations, and I used to admire just being in that locker room and just seeing you guys, the way you guys used to get along, and it's like this incredible brotherhood where we almost do it. And I used to feel kind of part of it, like a little mini part of it. Like you almost don't have to grow up because
it's a bunch of big kids, running around, and some of those guys, like you mentioned Filer, and I hadn't seen Filer in a really long time.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and he's completely. That's another 180, right? Just in terms of just his physical build. But when I saw him, it was like we never skipped a beat. You know, we're starting cracking jokes and, you know, and just kind of like, of course, catching up, right? And so I think that's another great thing about football is it does create that bond and that brotherhood that lasts longer than you know, it could be like lifelong friendships that you develop.
Well, we talk about guys like Filer who went from probably 290 around then to probably 200, maybe.
Okay, yeah, I don't.
Maybe.
Yeah,
like I'm just you would know better.
Yeah.
Like on the way I know he's a fireman now, and he's talking about how hard it was to the training and whatever. So he talked about. I remember talking to him about going from strength, being a guy that was built on strength, to a guy that was built on conditioning and being able to go on forever. I guess kind of thing in terms of his athletic ability and more cardio is the word I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
And that's been important for you, obviously, now in post-retirement. And I got to ask you, it's like, obviously, you were a guy that was very fit from day one. Why is it so important for you, the whole fitness regimen? And I'm going to start with you personally.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, how much is this? What are you lifting?
You guys did your homework. Where are you guys finding these videos?
I do my work.
Yeah. Wow, okay. Yeah, you know what, for me, so growing up, like everyone has a story, you know, and growing up, like I've had, like, I'm not gonna name names or anything like that, but like there's family members where, you know, health hasn't been like the forefront, and you know, I don't have any children right now, and at one day, you know, maybe if, you know, God willing, you know, I have a few, you know, I want to be around for that. You know, and I think taking care of, you know, my health as best I can will give me the best chance, you know, and so that's something that pushes me now. I won't lie, when I very first started training and exercising, when I was in high school, way back, I just wanted to look good, you know, big arms. I was like, you know, just like, I won't lie, like that's why I first started doing it. But now it's more like you mentioned, personal, where it's like just taking care of my health and just like being, and I think now just being in the industry. I don't train perfectly. I don't have a perfect diet or anything like that, but like I try to make sure that like I do the best I can, right? And so like I kind of live by, it's like an 80-20 rule, where it's like 80% of the stuff that I do is going to be healthy and health conscious, and then there's the 20%
hold on, you're slacking. You are slacking. I mean, who am I to say this, right? But you are slacking because a couple of months ago we had Milt Stiegel on here, and you said the 80-20.
Yeah,
he says he's 90-10.
Okay, I gotta have a chat with Milt. I gotta have a chat with Milt to see what he's really doing, because you know what, actually Milt is probably one of those pillars of consistency, because he's a guy
he's in his 50s.
He's in his 50s and he's crushing it. He probably could. Did you see that video? He was at a training camp.
Yes, this year.
What is wrong with this man?
Catching passes and not just doing the plays, but actually out there working out and running by people.
Come on. But yeah, so he's a pillar of fitness. But yeah, so 80-20. Like summertime, okay, it might be 65-35.
Barbecues.
Yeah, exactly. Right. A few barbecues here, but again, just like staying as consistent as I can. You know, like I have like a non-negotiable. It's like I'm going to be training minimum 4 days a week. You know, and that's a non-negotiable. Whether that's a run, walk, you know, my weight training, and then as I'm doing that, and of course, like I have a crew of clients that I train too, and so it's more just, you know, if I'm going to be training them, I got to be doing my part as well. I can't look at them and tell them, hey, you know, go and lift 315 or whatever the weight is. I don't care what they lift. It doesn't really matter to me. But I can't tell them to, you know, hit their goals physically if I'm not trying to push myself in the same capacity. And so yeah, just like I think the leadership isn't, you talked about leadership earlier, but leadership isn't always about like talking and rah. It's like walking it too. And again, like I said, I'm not perfect, but I try my best to, you know, stay consistent in the weight room and push myself. And football has been a really big, I guess, like part of my foundation for that, where I didn't know how to train before. And then getting around other vets and getting like strength coaches and other coaches that have like kind of helped me. And that's really helped, been like a really big part of my foundation to like, one, help myself, but then also help other clients too. So,
and that's what I want to touch on, because not only you touching clients, and I think that's easy on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
And I think maybe someone like myself, I could say I need a one-on-one. Like I don't know if I would do well in big groups like that too.
Yeah.
But you also offer, I'm going to say, quote, your services and your experiences and your ability and knowledge.
Yes.
To big groups too, and I know you had a big gig at Tim Hortons Field, and you're doing these big events with a lot of people.
Yeah.
What's that like?
It's one, it's fun. It's like, that's the biggest thing, is fun. And so, for me growing up, I love to dance. I'm not a dancer by any. I'm not. You won't catch me doing like choreography or anything like that. But you go out, like when I was young, you go out to the clubs and do things like that. And I kind of wanted to bring that type of vibe to a fitness class or a fitness group, right? Where it's like just fun energy. We have a group of people coming together. We celebrate fitness. And so like I put together, it's like a hip hop cardio class, and I've been very fortunate to host them at Tim Hortons Field, and we have like a big crew. We have a live DJ that comes out, and it's just a fitness party, like literally fitness party. Music's blasting and the hip hop's going, and that's been just like a lot of fun. And so I'm just like bringing, like, again, it's no better or worse than anybody else. Like there's a lot of people that are doing great things in the fitness industry, but I just kind of wanted to bring like my energy to it, and people have been receiving it really well, and like they're just loving that vibe. And so for me, it's just like kind of being authentic and sharing that authenticity, and the biggest thing too is like all fitness levels are welcome to these events. So, we've had people that have never stepped foot in a gym before, and they come out to these events and they have a blast. And then it's something that can kind of create a little bit of momentum on the fitness journey, because it's tough. Like fitness training all the time, it's tough. And sometimes too, to be in the gym, doing squats, like you talked about the one-on-one thing, like to do squats once a week, every week, or twice a week, whatever it is, it can be boring and mundane. And so creating these events, it's something that people can look forward to. They can come out, it's like, okay, it's almost like a game, right? It's like you practice all week. Who likes practice, honestly? Right?
Well, for sure, right?
Right? Who likes practice? But everybody loves game day, and so it's kind of creating that game day feel. So what we do at the events is like, the people that come in, they walk through the tunnel, right? Like the tunnel where they walk through like the Caretakers Club, and like the music's blasting.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like create that like game
Pumped
day.
up.
Yeah, create that like game day feel, and they get onto the field, and it's like the energy's there. You see a bunch of the people there, and you're seeing. And I think too, what makes it awesome is like you see. There's like the fitness enthusiasts. Like sometimes you can tell who they are. Then you can tell like there's some of the people that are not fitness enthusiasts, but they're there too. And then everyone's together, and there's no judgment. There's no like seclusion. Everybody's included. We do like a little bit of a chant. I'm like, let me get an Ayo, and like they get two claps. They get the Ayos out there, and it's just fun. And so I think that's the biggest thing is like creating a community where there's no judgment. It's fun. It's about just enjoying where you are in your journey, and then we all come together, and then we kind of all disperse. We do our thing, and we'll come back together again. And so that's kind of like the vision and what I've been doing with these events.
You have one coming up, right?
I do have one coming up on September 5th at Tim Hortons Field from 7 to 9 p.m. To be myself leading the hip hop cardio. So the event is called the End Zone Experience. So energy is a big thing for me. I'm a big energy guy. And then the zone, so it's like, we talk about football and like being focused and locked in. And so I think it takes a little bit of time to get into a zone, but the zone isn't just a moment. It's like the zone is like a collection of moments. So it's like the practice, there's success, there's failures, there's setbacks, there's adversity, there's all those things. That's a part of the zone. So energy, zone, and then the experience, everybody comes together. We have like a fun experience. And we do that. And that's going to be the next event at Tim Hortons Field. Paige Wyatt, she's also she's a naturopath. She's going to be leading there's going to be a yoga that we're going to do as well to finish the night. So hip hop cardio, a little bit of yoga to finish off, and then DJ Juice will be spinning some tracks. It's actually we're doing a 90s and 2000s theme.
Oh, that's right.
So you mentioned LL Cool J.
Right in the pocket, right?
Right, you mentioned LL Cool J. Maybe add some LL Cool J on this playlist. I don't know, but yeah. So we're just having like a few different modalities and just like have some fun with it with that theme too.
amongst all the things that you are doing post-retirement right now, which I'm so proud to hear, because as you know well, there's sometimes guys it takes a long time for them to figure out what they want to do, once the game is over, right? And so congratulations on that. But you're also reaching out to another thing, and I'm really glad that you and I got to share, a number of hours together. Yeah, you've got a little. I'm going to say this. I don't. Pumping the tires.
Okay, I'll take it.
You've got a future in broadcasting.
Wow.
Where'd this come from? Why? Like, I don't think this was ever in your wheelhouse.
No, it's not. And I think one of the things for me, and even this dates back to playing football too, like my earlier years playing with the Cats, I've always wanted to challenge myself, right? So playing pro sport is a challenge in itself. But then one of my biggest fears was always public speaking. I hated to get up in front of a class or to do a presentation when I was in university. I hated to do those things. And so one of the things I was like, okay, I got to overcome this somehow. And the way you do that is by doing it, right? And so, I did some presentations. I did when I was with the Ticats doing those things. And then even like when I was finished playing football, no one really knows this. But when I was out in BC, I was living out in BC, I was actually taking acting classes. And that was actually another way to step out of your comfort zone, because you had to study a script and then you had to perform that script in front of a crowd, right? And so that was another way to kind of, step out of my comfort zone and learn these things. And so the broadcasting, it was something that was presented to me, and it's like, yeah, Buck, you should try that. And I'm like, I've never done that before, but let's do it. Let's try it. And so honestly, that means absolutely the world to hear that, like when you say that I have a future in it, because you're a guy that I watched for a long time on CH News, like turned on the sports section, and you're doing those sections, and you've been you've been a beast at it, and so to hear that from you, one, thank you for that, and again, I have no idea where that will go, but I'm open. I'm definitely open to possibilities and opportunities.
I hope more opportunities come your way, and whether it be the Ticats or other people that might have saw what you did, whether it be in the podcast, Ticat stuff, or you and I actually did a game together.
That was awesome.
Pre-game, post-game, and halftime. The halftime stuff, and I guess it was. I thought to myself, you know what? He just needs more reps. Like when I say not more reps to get better, but like in terms of your raw talent, but I thought it was there too. And plus, you're talking about something right? Like you know football, right?
Exactly.
So once I thought it took you no time to be comfortable, and I was really, really impressed with that.
Thank you.
And I think I'm really impressed too, because the game that we did, they won.
They did win. They did win. And that was their last win.
That was their last win. You're right.
Oh man.
Like Matt, what's going on there? Like, what's up? Like, what's up with this team right now?
I have such a soft spot for this team, and it's there's a whole multitude of things, right? They're not playing complete games, right? And I hate harping on these guys, because like I was a player, so there's you have that soft spot. It's like, but at the end of the day, this is a business, and these guys are expected to win. The fans here in Hamilton expect winning. They expect winning, and when it doesn't happen, of course, it's not a friendly place to be at Tim Hortons Field if you're not winning. But yeah, what's happening? It's a multitude of things. It's the defense isn't playing complete games. Of course, the offense, they're turning the ball over. There's turnovers in critical times. Not finishing drives. When they have the opportunities to, and yeah, it's just not complete games. And I think in the CFL, where every game matters and there's so much parity, when you have an opportunity to win, you have to close out these opportunities. And so it's been tough. It's been tough watching these games, and I know they've made some changes as well. I think I listened to an interview with Milanovic, and he was just saying he just needs to shake things up a little bit in the room, and I guess with the culture. I love Mark Washington. I'm just a little bit biased because I played for him when I was in BC, and one, not only is he a good coach, but he's a really good man, and he's a great leader. And I hate the fact that that he was let go, but that's also part of the business, right? When you're not winning games, changes have to be made.
There's always a scapegoat.
Yeah, and
I'll say it.
Yeah, no, it's true,
Right.
and I hate I truly hate that because especially when you play and you understand like the ins and outs. So you see you're in the locker room and there's not, like you said, it's like, what is it? And it's not one thing. It's like some guys are injured right now and they have injuries at key positions, and the DBs haven't had a complete unit together, and they've been up and down with the roster lineup with Katz being in and out, and some of their other key DBs that have been in and out. Leonard hasn't played the full season yet, so it's tough. And you have these groups that you're trying to work with, and I think that team too, they're trying to find an identity right now too, where they're the heart and soul of their defense. Simone has been removed, and so I think trying to find that who's the next leader, and
that's a great point.
And those are big shoes to fill, right? His impact, there's no denying his impact that he had on that team, and so who's the next guy that's up to fill that, right? And you have some guys that can show flashes of that, but can you be consistent for a long season? And we know it's a long season. 18 games is a long ride.
Yeah, it has been difficult because I do see talent on that team.
100%.
And it is unfortunate that we've seen two coordinators, as you said, lose their job, and all of a sudden, did they forget how to coach or whatever? I mean, look at the offensive coordinator. It's just escaping me right now. Who got fired from the Tiger Cats last year?
Condell.
Tommy Condell. He's spinning it up pretty good in Ottawa right now.
6-2,
right?
Or is it 6-2?
Yeah,
It's 6-2 right now.
6-2-1.
Right. Oh,
they got the one tie. Like,
that's right.
Like all of a sudden, he looks pretty good.
Right.
Right. He's a genius again.
Yes.
Right. So it is tough, and this happens to players as well too. They go to other places, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, what happened? I didn't see that last year." But yeah, I mean, football again. As we go back to it again, the ultimate team game, and everything's got to be complementary and coming together.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
Coming together was you and I on this wonderful podcast, and it has been so fun to catch up with you, Matt. You're doing so well again, so proud. I love seeing people when they go on and do what they love to do, but not only doing it for themselves, but doing it for so many others. You have so much talent, and you're just spreading the love, and hopefully you'll get out and get some cameras out and watch you do some dancing in front of a number of people down at Tim Hortons Field.
September 5th. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get it done. Thanks for joining us, partner.
Bubba, thank you so much.
All right,
appreciate it.
That's your Sportsline podcast for the day. And as you've just seen and heard, we love talking to people who are passionate about sports and the community. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event that needs to be on the Sportsline podcast, please let us know. Please comment, hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button, and be sure to share. For the wonderful people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.